All right, Shalom Akim starts his lesson. Want to give all praise and all glory to Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai Bahashim Rakakadash. The born star apostles and other great Muslims that taught us his truth. Peace and blessing to the sincere Akim that's pushing his truth. And all truth and sincerity around the four corners of the earth diligently to us. Shalom. Okay, I'm the brother Yara Araya from the Great Millstone Miami camp. I come back through the spirit power of Yahweh Bahashim Shai, to make another lesson. Okay, in this lesson, I'll be going to how we are in the times of prophecy. All right, seeing the times that we in, or things are heating up. Right now we're just waiting on. Trump is really moving as that. That cruel Lord, or which we believe to be him, and which is him, man. Seeing how Trump is moving, okay, and the plans that he's doing, and the move that he's making with the U.S. military and stuff of that sort. Okay, now there's an article coming out saying that okay, Trump now plans to take Greenland. All right, he already done went, and then now this devil's horns are really starting to show, and the people are getting mad because he went and took a president, and named this president a narco terrorist and all these things. And once the president was captured, what did he say? Now it's about oil. Yeah, they asked Trump, what is he going to do with all that oil? And he said that they're going to take it. All right, and he just basically said, the whole reason why he did what he did, man. Okay, and the scriptures tell us that riches got by the sea. That's how this devil works, man. The devil works by going and portraying the propaganda against such president, and going over and killing that president, or setting up a coup d'état, or just mistakenly he died from an accident. All right, America, has been in the middle of almost every conflict in which it has. Okay, I think America has been in more wars than any other nation. Okay, even the war with Russia and Ukraine, even though there were some Americans fighting that war, probably militia groups of that sort, but America was technically fighting that war. Although it may not have been physically, what did they do? They supplied ammo, munition, weapons, food, money, and that's ultimately because they don't want Russia to expand, right? Because America's threat is Russian expansion. Okay, they don't want Russia to go ahead and and expand. All right, and that's what they're afraid of. Okay, that's why Trump did what that's what they did what they did in Ukraine. All right, so that Russia doesn't get any more farther. All right, showing you how he's the devil too, because it's okay when America tries to expand, but when all these other nations tries to expand or try to take back a country that was once theirs, here go America trying to be the equalizer. All right, and that's why the scriptures say, "How is the hammer on the earth cut cut asunder." I'm roughly paraphrasing it, but that's speaking about America. America is the hammer of the earth. That has military bases in almost every country. All right, that that drives around. Well, that you can say drive around with their ships. Okay, has the largest military budget, and Trump is trying to increase that, man. But I had a couple articles. I don't want to just keep ranting. All right, this is BBC News, and you can search this everywhere too. It says, why does Trump want Greenland, and what could it mean for NATO? It says the U.S. President Donald Trump insists his country needs to acquire Greenland for national security reasons, and he has not ruled out using military force. And right, man, this devil, and obviously he's not going to say military force yet because he don't want to get everybody started, but he's basically saying that he's going to get Greenland. Okay, And if you search it up too, and matter of fact, let me search it up now, because showing you, how the devil he is. He's saying that they need to go take over Greenland, but Greenland is already a part of NATO. Says yes, Greenland is a part of NATO because it's autonomous and territory with the Kingdom of Denmark, a founding NATO member. Meaning any attack on Greenland would trigger NATO's Article 5 collective defensive clause. Okay, so we are living in the time of prophecy because Trump is not going to go over there, okay, and try to go over there and make peace and try to make a deal. No, man. He's going to use the military that he has to acquire that, man. And all these nations too, and NATO itself was not pleased at what Trump did in Venezuela. Okay, they condemned what Trump did, man. Okay, because you understand when, due to the fact that they have an alliance together, one country cannot just force itself into war. It has to be agreed upon with all countries that are part of NATO. And Trump did not do that. Okay, Trump didn't even get a clearance from Congress. He just went and did it, showing you how cruel of a Lord he is. All right, showing you how wicked this devil is, man. All right, but fast forwarding on, that's why scriptures tell us in Revelation how the beast shall hate the whore. Okay, because when you have that in Revelation, there's a picture of a woman riding that beast, that dragon. Okay, and that's why it says the beast shall hate the whore. Because those beasts are those NATO allies, man. And that whore is is just he's talking about America, Babylon, and these nations are not pleased with America after what Trump just said about trying to take Greenland. So that means that America would have to acquire Greenland by military force, which is a NATO ally of Denmark, man. So that means that NATO will have to fight itself. And these nations are already not, too satisfied with what Trump did with Venezuela, and now he's trying to take Greenland. Okay? I got a precept right here. This is Revelation chapter 17 and verse 15. And it says, and he said, it's like it. I think it's verse, it's like I'm on the road too. Let me find this like orange. Believe. Verse 15. Oh, it's like it, brothers. I'm driving too as well. This Revelation chapter 17. Start up a bit. Sorry, guys, I'm trying to find it right now. I know it was in Revelation 17. 16. Revelation 17 and verse 16, Salakia. And it says, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat of her flesh, and burn her with fire. Okay, that's not actually literally talking about, actual beast, man. Okay, you gotta understand how the scriptures work, man. You gotta understand the meaning of words and understand the history to understand that these are not, it's not talking about, an actual beast, okay, and a whore, all right? This is describing nations, man, and the destruction of the nation and the war between nations, all in one verse, man. Okay, because all these nations are going to shoot nuclear missiles at America, man. All right, and and it's prophesied in the scriptures. Okay, let me grab that too. This is Jeremiah 15 verse 14. It says, "Put yourselves in array against Babylon, which is America, round about. All ye that bend the bow, shoot at her. Spare no arrows, for she has sinned against the Lord." Right, man. All these nations that have nuclear capabilities shoot at America, right? Because she has sinned against who? Yahweh Shemi Shai. Okay, that that treated the nation of Israel horribly. All right. And this is Revelation 18 and verse 1 says, after these things I after saw Slakia, and after these things I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened in his glory. He cried with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, it has become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. That's right, man. All right. Then that's talking about a future prophecy that we are now about to go in, man. Okay, that's Slucky, that's going into the destruction of America, man. Which is a fruit for a future prophecy. All right, because guess what? Things are things got to be put in place first before the destruction of America, man. This devil got to come down with great wrath. Okay, the MOTB have to be put in place. War has to start. World War III has to start. Okay, because the World War III is already going to be beginning before Yahweh Shema Shai come back. It's just that when Yahweh Shai crack the clouds, they're going to put their differences aside to fight Yahweh Shai. They're not going to win. Okay, verse 3 says, "For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornications, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth have waxed through the abundances of her delicacy." Right, man, because you have to understand that America is the biggest importer, man. Okay, they buy goods from these other nations, man. They import a lot of goods, man. All right, they don't export as much. All right, and that's how, and and that's how these other nations have. That's how these other nations have become so wealthy because of the trade with America, China, okay, India, all these, all these other brands, clothing brands. All right, when they make their clothes, they don't make it in America. They make it in these third world countries so that they can they can have cheap labor and overpriced goods, man. And these nations and these nations become wealthy off of that, man. All right, but nonetheless, the title of the lesson is going to be, okay, we are in the time of prophecy, saying that now that Trump is trying to take Greenland, okay, which is a NATO ally, man, and NATO's not too happy with that. Okay, NATO was already not pleased with Trump for taking over Venezuela. Okay, but now we seeing, the times that we live in, time is moving extremely fast, man. Time is moving fast. Okay, we are in those times of prophecy, man. Okay, and it will behoove you to seek Yahweh by Shimei Shai, man. Okay, we at the end. So Lord will listen this edifying. Okay, with that, I do want to give our praise and our glory to Yahweh by Shimei Shai by Shimei Kakadash. Double honor to our apostle, Elder Great Milson, that taught us the truth. Peace and blessings to insert our kings. With that, I do want to say, Shalom.